Let's go ahead and get to Zohran, and let's start off with a clip of Pete Buttigieg talking about why he thinks that Zohran won. And Pete says, his policy, like that really wasn't the thing. I think people are reading too much into this whole like free bus thing. Let's take a listen to Pete explaining his version of why Zohran was so successful.
I think a lot of people are focused on the leftism, the ideological leftism, that I think we shouldn't be so surprised that prevailed in a New York Democratic Party primary. But I think if my party wants to learn lessons from Mamdani's success that are portable to a place like Michigan, where I live, it's less about the ideology and more about the message discipline of focusing on what people care about and the tactical wisdom of getting out there and talking to everybody.
You nailed it.
And I've seen several different versions of this where it's like the assessment is, oh, well, he's young, he's charismatic. He was talking about cost of living. You know, they say it in this very amorphous way, like the specifics of his proposals didn't matter. Or it's, oh, he understood social media and he knew how to make videos. Anything to keep from grappling with the fact that a central part of his appeal are his specific policies, including, by the way, his support for Palestinian rights. The data is just totally clear at this point that he didn't win in spite of his willingness to, stand on business of being an anti-Zionist. He won in part because that was such an appealing position to take in the context, especially of a Democratic primary.
I mean, he's the millennial. Like, he's who a lot of establishment Democrats see as like the ambassador, the party's like next best ambassador to millennials and to millennial men, because he's young and a man, but he's not. It's actually kind of interesting. This made me think about this when it comes to Buttigieg for the first time, in the sense that like he doesn't capture any of the mood of millennials for sure, or of like people, again, under the age of 40 roughly in the country. And you'd think that Democrats would understand that about him. He's so, he's able to talk like a normal Midwestern dude when he's on with Andrew Schultz or different podcast hosts, but he definitely doesn't at all reflect. Like Mamdani is also a cheerful candidate, right? Like I think Soccer has pointed this out, like a guy's always smiling wherever he goes, even though he's speaking to the miseries of younger Americans, millennials, Generation Z. But Buttigieg is not somebody who comes across as like really understanding that and really like, do you know what I'm saying? Like that's not what he speaks to. He sort of like seems to gloss over a lot of that. And I think this clip is a pretty good example of him saying, well, New York City is deep blue. It was a vibes election. It's true, Cuomo was a bad candidate and all of that, but Mamdani is powerful for Democrats precisely because he kind of understands the precariousness of the situation that the 24-year-old man finds himself in very particular ways that you don't really hear Buttigieg talking about at all.
Well, Democrats took this lesson from the Trump election of basically like, we need to go on podcasts.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yes.
But they didn't realize that it's not just you need to go on podcasts.
Exactly.
It's like you need to be able to say something when you're on those podcasts that is going to have appeal.
You need to flame the Dem establishment because that is what Trump did with the Republican establishment. That's what J.D. Vance does with the Republican establishment. Whether or not you think they believe it, that's why Joe Rogan likes them.
Yeah. And I mean, again, Israel is really central here. And I'm sorry to keep picking on Senator Slotkin because I actually really appreciate her coming on our show.
Yeah.
But, I think I asked her, like, what did you want? Why did you want to talk to us? And she basically said, like, well, my staff pitched us and pitched me on it. And, we all have the sense of basically we need to get out into independent media. But if you don't understand the audiences there and what they need to hear for a politician in order for them to trust you and for you to have any credibility with them at all, like you can go on every podcast in the world and it's not going to help you one bit whatsoever. And
like if Kamala Harris had gone on Rogan. Yeah.
Right. And, I really do think, like, I've become quite convinced that the sort of price of entry into credibility in those spaces on the Democratic side is being like having any sort of soul and conscience around Palestinian life. And, if we look at here, we've got a bunch of interesting poll numbers with regard to Zohran. We can put C2 up on the screen. This one reflects what the top contributors to his success in the race ultimately were. And number one, his plans to lower costs. That's great. 89% said that was really important to me. Number two, his plans to tax the wealthy and stand up to corporations. Now, that's part of why Pete wants to say, oh, no, it didn't have anything to do with his policy positions because, he's interested in like a maintenance of the status quo. But number three on that list is his support for Palestinian rights. 62% of people said that was important to me, and only 12% said it wasn't. That it wasn't important to them at all in terms of how they voted. So Zohran didn't try to make, Palestinian rights central to his campaign, but his opponents decided to make that a central question in the campaign. And there's just no doubt that they did him a tremendous favor by, trying to smear him as an anti-Semite and constantly talking about, would he go to Israel and where does he stand on this? That was a huge boon to him in this primary. I think the numbers are quite clear at this point. And we've also got polling, Emily, about where he stands for the general election. If this polling is to be believed, and I don't see any reason why it shouldn't, given that, the heavily Democratic makeup of the city of New York, Zohran looks set to coast to victory, whether or not all of his current opponents stay in the race or not. Let's put C3 up on the screen. You can see all of the different demographic groups that he is strongest with. This isn't a five-way vote. I mean, just look at this list. So young Asians, he's winning 89% of them. Men, 18 to 34, a key demographic group the Democrats did not do so hot with in the general election. He's winning 85% of them. Young women, 79% overall, ages 25 to 34, 79%. You can just go down this list. A couple more that I just want to highlight here. Jews age 18 to 44, he is winning 67% of young Jewish voters. Overall Jewish voters, okay, 43%. Which is much larger by double digits.
That's
than
a lot
other
of anti-Semitic Jews.
Yeah, exactly. But that he wins the plurality of Jews, and it's not close. It's by double digits. So, we really need to put to bed this idea that he constantly is getting harangued. Oh, you have work to do with the Jewish community and you need to talk to them and you're going to make Jews unsafe, blah, blah, blah. Well, somebody needs to ask Andrew Cuomo why Jewish voters apparently don't trust him and why he's got so much work to do apparently with the Jewish community since he is losing now to Zohran among those groups. And according to Cuomo's numbers, lost Jewish voters in the primary. Majority of them, according to Cuomo, voted for Zohran in the primary as well. So, frankly, it's anti-Semitic to project onto Jewish voters that they all have this one monolithic view, that they are all on board with Israel committing a genocide in the Gaza Strip, and that this is a top priority and a top issue for them is like how many times you're going to visit Israel and how much you love Benjamin Netanyahu. This is just thoroughly debunked and honestly a disgusting view of the electorate.
Can we just put the graphic up on the screen one more time? Sorry, there's one that caught my eye that I wanted to point out, the last one. Check out Curtis Sliwa there, Krystal. 45% of Staten Island.
Yeah. White Catholics, Staten Island. White union household is interesting, and white non-college, that's his strength.
Absolutely crushing it on Staten Island. Sorry, I had to point that one out as soon as I saw it.
Well, I think this chart is so important because it just completely exposes the lie of the idea that, Zohran's just winning like affluent white socialists in Brooklyn.
That's a good point.
Like, look at this list. You know, it's overwhelming. I mean, he's winning black women, 51% of all of the, the caricature of where his appeal is very much debunked by this chart showing where he's strongest, which is like basically everywhere.
Yeah, 43% of non-college. I think 100 to 199 household income, that's 53%. 50 to 99, he's at 53% of household income. So I think that is a really good point as well. Krystal, sample sizes, I will say, in that poll are pretty small. It even says down there on the screen, results should be treated as directional, but we'll see more in the days to come. And certainly some of this matches up with what we saw from results after the primary. Let's go ahead and put C4 on the screen. This is, I think it's actually even from the same poll, isn't it, Krystal? The Data for Progress. This is New York City Democratic primary voters believe Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. All likely voters, that is at 78%. And only 13% say no, 9% say don't know. So if you are interested in why Cuomo's approach during the primary failed dramatically, this poll makes that pretty clear.
Yeah, and we've got another one in the same vein about Netanyahu. So it's Zohran's position, which I fully support, that if Netanyahu comes to New York City, he should be arrested because there's an outstanding International Criminal Court arrest warrant against him for being an alleged war criminal. I don't think it's alleged, but whatever. Yeah, New York voters are on board with that too. 63% of Democratic primary voters were like, yes, actually, you should arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. And only 20% say no. The other 16% say they are not sure. Just to give you a sense of on what solid ground he was on with all of his positions, which again, his opponents really made central to the race. He made cost of living central to the campaign he was running, but his opponents were bound and determined to put these issues at the center of the race, and only, I think, aided him in securing a crushing primary victory. But don't worry, Emily, his adversaries have not given up. We can put C5 up on the screen. We have a new, billionaire to multimillionaire effort to try to defeat Zohran in the general election. You've got a new anti-Mamdani super PAC forming. A hedge funder and Trump voter pledged $500,000 of his own cash. If you want to join his Zoom call on how to stop Zohran, you will need to pay at least $25,000 as the price of admission to. This must be the greatest Zoom call of all time. But in this, in this polling that just came out, even if everybody drops out except Cuomo, who appears to be his strongest head-to-head opponent in the general election, you still have in this poll Zohran winning by 12 points, which coincidentally is exactly what he won the primary by as well. So, it's just utterly absurd at this point and really disgusting that Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries can't bother to endorse the Democratic nominee who has much higher favorability ratings than either one of them do in New York. Actually, the only candidate, the only politician who has higher approval rating in New York than Zohran is AOC. And they think that, they just, because they're worried about their donors and they don't like his position on Israel, they refuse to endorse the Democratic nominee. And, I think it is only hastening the decline and exposing the hypocrisy and the distance between Democratic leadership and where the Democratic base is at this point.
So I believe Mamdani, this is the last thing I'll say, is on his way back from Uganda. And there has been some talk in MAGA circles that the administration should detain him on his way back. That's something we have seen happen in a couple of cases over the first 6 months of the Trump administration to people who have been critical of U.S. foreign policy, particularly when it comes to Israel. So that's just something to watch today, Krystal. I don't know if that was on your radar, but I'm pretty sure that's been discussed. So we'll keep everybody updated with any news we hear on that.
Well, it would both be obviously outrageous and grotesque if they did that, and also just a massive boost to Zohran and his campaign.
It would be beyond.
We'll watch closely.
It would be so politically foolish of them to do. So anyway, we will see. Let's move on to crypto, Krystal. Republicans making a big push to just boost the crypto industry before heading out in August recess. Nothing more important to do. So we will be joined by Peter Ryan shortly.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.